So hi, Daniel. I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A real pleasure to be able to speak to you today.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi. Maybe you could just kick off with a brief introduction to this wonderful, heartwarming film, Your Christmas or Mine. What can audiences expect when they watch it?
Audiences can expect a fantastic Christmas movie. All of those elements of a Christmas movie that you want are there in spades. Do you know what I mean? It's uplifting, it's charming, it's laugh out loud funny, it has great pathos. I'm going to admit this now, it made me cry when I watched it back. Do you know what I mean? It has wonderfully drawn characters, a wonderful script from Tom Parry, his first time feature. They've assembled a top-notch cast, and it was a complete scream, an absolute joy to bring this film to the screen. You know, it was, we all got on famously well, and I think the enjoyment of playing the characters really comes across on screen. So, you know, it epitomizes everything that you want from a great Christmas film, and then some. I think so, anyway.
And, you know, obviously you've been so prolific as an actor. I was just looking back over all your credits and things, but I believe it's your first Christmas film.
Exhausting, isn't it?
But, you know, was it always kind of on your bucket list? Oh, I really want to do a Christmas movie. And what were your favourite ones when you were sort of growing up, or, you know, that you sort of, it's not Christmas until you've watched that film?
It wasn't necessarily something on my bucket list. I always, whenever I commit to any project, it's always about, you know, the quality of the writing and how I initially feel, if it moves me, if it makes me laugh when I sit down and I first watch it. So when I came to this premise, you know, and you get the two young drama students, Haley and James, and they're just on the cusp of are they or aren't they falling in love, and they're saying goodbye at the train station, and just that premise of them in a split-second decision jumping on one another's trains and then spending Christmas at the other person's house with the other person's family, with it all being snowed in. I was just completely taken with that. There's a simplicity to that premise and that setup, you know. And what I admired about it was the fact that it was a world of contrasts. You know, it's a sort of class contrast, it's a cultural contrast. You know, you have this very sort of lavish country mansion down in Kimball in the countryside, and you've got Alex Jennings' character who's sort of dealing with grief and was not celebrating Christmas whatsoever. And the polar opposite of that is the family in Macclesfield that I'm part of, and they're all a bit working class and rough around the edges, and they love Christmas and they have all their Christmas traditions. And so it was just a lovely dynamic, the whole thing. In terms of Christmas films, I mean, my go-to Christmas film is It's a Wonderful Life. I love that one. Home Alone seems to be a Christmas movie that has stayed with me. And Home Alone 2, I'm a huge fan of those, all that slapstick stuff with Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci and Macaulay Culkin. That just always makes me laugh out loud. So, but yeah, I mean, you can't, Love Actually is obviously something that sticks out. So yeah, they're great. When they're done right, Christmas films, they're incredibly uplifting. And I think Your Christmas or Mine really achieves that.
And coming to this absolutely incredible cast, Asa Butterfield, of course, kind of newcomer in Cora. But then, you know, each of these complete contrasting families, like you were saying, and your family in particular, I know you've been sort of reunited with Angela Griffin after White Lines. But you do have that wonderful lived-in feeling, like it seems like you are a family and you have got that sort of shorthand with each other. So what was it like working with all these people and being on this set?
Well, Jim O'Hanlon, our brilliant director, was great at we had a couple of days rehearsal. We did the read through, and what was great is just rehearsing the scenes, and it was just getting to know all of the actors again. I mean, you mentioned I'd worked with Angelo, I'd worked with Asa before years ago on Nanny McPhee, so it was great to team up with him again. David Bradley I'd worked with. But it was, and you know, if anything, it was even more so with the young boys in it as well. You know, Ant and Dec, who play the kids, they were. It was really key to get them invested in the dynamic of the family, and we had a lot of laughs. You know, it was all about bringing energy and spontaneity and keeping the script fresh every day. and playing it. I think what's great about the film, particularly with the family in Macclesfield, is they feel incredibly grounded. You know, there's a sense of social realism to that family. Do you know what I mean? And for me personally, I found it incredibly relatable. Do you know what I mean? It reminded me of my own upbringing in Buckerstill in Essex. You know, my dad didn't sell turkeys out of ice cream vans, but it was kind of chaotic and full of love, and I think that family epitomizes that. Yeah.
But did you have any sort of favourite moments? And I was thinking, oh, when did they shoot this? I mean, were you really sort of having to be sat there in July, kind of in your Christmas jumper with the turkey on the front, or was it not too long ago? Wasn't too sort of surreal for you?
No, we did. We shot it over the summer last year, and I remember saying to them, like, how on earth can you do that? I mean, it's silly, really, because of course all the smoke and mirrors and all the tricks of the trade come out, you know, and they just kept pumping this snow machine everywhere. It was all like paper mache that it's made out of, and but it was kind of it was surreal. You know, you'd be called to set, and you'd walk from the unit base on a hot summer's day, and then you'd literally turn into the street, the Macclesfield exterior street, and it was like stepping into Christmas. And it was just incredibly hot wearing all those layers of clothes at that time of year. But no, I've got nothing but the utmost respect to the production crew and everyone that realised the vision of the film. You know, it is actually kind of magical when you're acting with snow all around you. You know, there was lots of sort of blowing of hands and sort of, you know, cold acting. We had to sort of throw that into it. But yeah, it was a great thing to do.
And I think sort of coming back to what you were saying earlier about this kind of brilliant balance of kind of the humour, but also, you know, there is sort of drama and there is heart to it. And one scene really stood out for me, the one you have with Asa, and you know, just sat there kind of, you know, wrapping up a Christmas present, and, you know, just kind of this very emotional conversation sort of comes out. And I thought, well, there's something very true about that. And that's maybe why we need times like Christmas to sort of stop what we're doing and actually take a moment to kind of have those conversations. And they sometimes crop up at the most unexpected moments. That seems like a very important scene.
It's just a lovely duologue with Asa, and a lovely moment for both those characters. I mean, key for Asa's character, because his backstory is revealed, and he's obviously dealing with this horrendous loss in his life with his mother sadly passing away in an accident. And, you know, that's the backstory to his character. And he hasn't been able to communicate from that point on with his dad, played by Alex Jennings. And it's about how, particularly Alex Jennings' character, how he thaws and is able to reconnect and deal with the grief. You know, they finally talk about what the elephant in the room is. And also for Jeff, you know, he has his own loss with his own father, and it's a great moment because he's been so kind of a character who's so outgoing and on the surface, you know, and all of a sudden he comes out with this sort of heartbreaking story of his own, and it just beds the character down in a great truth and a great reality. And you're right, I think, you know, films like this are really key at this time of year, isn't it? Because people do go back and think about the loved ones that they've, you know, lost, and it becomes quite a poignant time, doesn't it, at the end of each year, and you count the years as they go by. But again, testament to Tom's fantastic writing. He is able to deliver laugh out loud comedy, but give great moments of drama as well. And that's always the sign of a really accomplished writer. I'm really looking forward to see, he's such a talent, where he goes next with whatever he wants to do. Hopefully a sequel, that might be quite nice.
And, you know, just coming to your own career, I was just sort of saying that earlier, like, you have been so prolific and just done a bit of everything. You know, what have been some of the highlights for you? You know, Code 404, season 3, Line of Duty. But I've seen you've also just been cast in Guys and Dolls, is that right? Also doing this Apple TV Franklin series. You know, so what's been the highlight for you, and what have you got on the horizon?
Every job you do is a highlight. I always have that sort of, I think it's a really healthy mentality to every job you finish, you kind of wipe the slate clean, and, you know, you're never as good as your last performance. You never, have time really to rest on your laurels. And for me personally, it's always about trying to play as many different characters as I can. I don't want to, you know, I see other actors and, you know, I can sort of see the wheels going round, or I can see that the choice isn't as interesting as it should be. You know, they're using the same part of themselves over and over. And I get it. People need to pay their mortgage and do all that and survive in the industry. But I think where you can, you've got to be brave and creative in the choices that you make. And you know, it's about saying no sometimes to a role that you know, if you've probably played it before, then it's not going to, if it doesn't interest you as an artist, it's never going to really appeal to an audience. Do you know what I mean? It becomes all a bit formulaic, and I never wanted to be that type of actor. So like, you know, you mentioned I'm just been cast in a musical at the Bridge Theatre of Guys and Dolls playing Nathan Detroit, which is, you know, complete left field offer in a way, but it gives me the chance to do a Bronx accent, to sing, to dance, to use a completely different part of myself and grow as a performer. I don't want to become, I think that's the key. You have to remain curious. You can't afford to become stale and you know, one note, because it isn't fulfilling. So that's great. And then I've also been coming towards the end of a huge period drama in Paris called, we don't know what it's called, but it's all about Benjamin Franklin, and who's being played by Hollywood icon Michael Douglas, who has been an absolute dream to work with. I've just loved that man so much. It's just been an absolute joy. Amazing actor. Like, I mean, to work with someone like that, I've seen all of his performances. To sit across from him, I've had a couple of moments in that show where you go, hold on a minute, that's Michael Douglas. What's going on? The kid from Essex has come all that way. So but he's kind of not starry in any way. He's really committed and very professional and wants to deliver a great performance. And he's certainly done that. So, yeah, they'd say don't ever meet your heroes because they'll disappoint you. But Michael, that couldn't be further from the truth.
Well, I think I'm out of time, but thank you so much for sharing.